Hey everyone, this is the Innovators Mindset with Sheriffee Humphrey. There you go, my God. Listen, okay, so I actually had the opportunity to keynote at the FASA conference, this Florida superintendents and school administrators, and I met Sharif, and I don't think I've ever hit it off with somebody as quickly. And I just like bonded immediately. Hey, like it was just immediate. You were just awesome, just an awesome guy. So I've been bugging you to be on my podcast for a little while, and I know that I've been gone speaking. You've had some stuff, so I'm pumped to see you, man. Like it's great.
So am I. I'm excited. Thanks for having me, man. You are the man up there. You are it.
Oh
You're,
man.
you're him.
Oh
You're
no,
him. You're
no,
him,
no,
as the
no.
kids say.
Listen, I got in with you, and then you got me with everybody. That's how I feel. Like everyone's like, oh, if he's with Sharif, then he's a good guy. So like I feel like, yeah, and just everyone like I don't. Maybe is it just me? Like is it just me that you felt that, or is that like, or am I just like
Oh, it is mutual. It is mutual, man. It's a
okay?
it's a thing.
I just
It's like you know, connect that. You're a good guy. You're a guy. You know those guys people connect like okay, definitely. Yeah, yeah. So I felt immediately like, oh my gosh, you're a good guy. Matches. I walked up to you. I was like, hey.
yeah, we just connected immediately, and he's just an awesome guy. And so Sharif is actually principal at Charter Schools USA. He's actually in Florida as well, and just love your story. I love, you talk a lot about, culture, virtue, things like that. And you have like kind of an interesting path into how you got to what you're doing today. But if you could just kind of give everyone a little bit of introduction, everyone's going to fall in love with you over me here right away, immediately. So can you just tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what you do today, and kind of how you got there?
Well, again, Sheriff Humphrey. I am a principal at Charter Schools USA. My school specifically is Renaissance Charter School at Plantation. We are a K-8 school. We are, we accept our kids in. We love them. We teach them. We lift them up, and we have an amazing process that we have the support of CSUSA to ensure all children have the opportunity to learn and be the very best. That's something that kind of sits with me as well because just growing up, I always wanted to make sure that I had an impact on other people no matter what career I had. And I will tell you some of the earliest people who had an impact on me were principals, and I remember back early on in school, I had a principal, Mr. Constantino, Mr. Anthony Polano. Those are individuals who walked through the hallway, shirt and tie, they're watching the kids walk in line, and they would greet you and they made you feel special. So that always sat in the back of my mind. No way did I ever imagine in those moments when I sought the principal's attention when we, in line that one day I would be a principal at a school. But I think back to those days are important things, important ways. So, I mean, through my school, going to school, college, I didn't start out in education, of course. I am a career changer. I started out, with fundraising in New York, corporate fundraising, did that for a while. And then there's a moment I got an offer to teach by the beach in South Florida. And I went down to Florida and I did interview and I got a job and I got to my first school. It was nowhere by the beach. But, at the end of the day, that started my journey. And been grateful ever since for the ride through the ebbs and flows, up and down. It is, I think the biggest impact you can have on a life of a child that affects the future can be so profound. And then I like finding like-minded people who can make that impact as well. I think that's huge.
Well, when you're talking about, it's funny because you're like talking about your influences when you're in school. I'm like, oh, that's what you were like to me, and that's like immediately, right? And you just have this presence, and is something that like I'm like talking to him, I'm like, God, I feel like $1,000,000 this guy, like, and there is something about that, and something I'm really cognizant of, being like when I was a school administrator and stuff like that, you're like trying to go to your way to make everyone feel really appreciated, value. And I think it's amazing because I guarantee your teachers are like, wow, like, look what he's doing, the same thing that he's talking about us. So I really appreciate that. And one of the things that you talked about really, really matters in your school is, you talked about relationships, culture, virtues, and stuff like that. How do you take some of that feeling that you kind of give to others? I know it's not limited to students, it's also your staff as well. How do you kind of spread that so that when you're not in the space, people are also doing that for others as well?
Yeah, I think you got to talk, really communicate. And I will tell you, the journey for me as a leader has always been to learn how to do better communicating with the team and the teachers and to make sure we're all on the same page. I will tell you, it was a journey at the beginning because it was self-discovery.
Yeah.
It really was self-discovery. How do I find ways to talk to people to spread the message of what's going to matter to make your school a better place? I am a Title I school currently, and we have our challenges with kids coming from different places and feeling valued in the space that they're in. And sometimes it's hard because they come with their own baggage. But as long as they walk in the door and they feel the connection of loving the environment that they're in, and that the adults also feel that connection, things kind of grow. We've talked about really at our school a lot about these our virtues. And CSUSA has been a great source of inspiration on virtues and building virtues. But those things that matter in the classroom or relationships, like one kindness, the simple thing of kindness, and sometimes in a world where some our students and families don't always get to display those values, kindness, because we're always in a rush to meet the needs and demands of right now. Just that simple relationship of being kind to one another, knowing how to speak to one another, knowing the emotional intake one has, being empathic some respect to that, so that they're able to connect. So for us, we believe in the kindness, fortitude, resilience. Those are elements we want to build perseverance when things are tough or challenging, that they can overcome and still feel okay with them in that space. And then continue to work with our teachers and PLCs and having those conversations kind of front loading, but also trickling down to others. How do we ensure in our classrooms that we promote these values? Are we perfect at it? No, we're not the perfect place. However, it's just belief in those things. I firmly believe right now, that we need to have a place where we talk about old school values and virtues that kind of bring us together. We surround our ideals around so that we can become better. And it could be any of those virtues that are out there. There are different schools of virtue, whether there's a classic school virtue, whether it's more modern, some of the more researchers out there who use new type of virtues. But there's a moral center that the virtues kind of go around. And I think if we just implement that, we become better, our kids become better, and the staff also becomes better because they buy into that. I think and hopefully they use that outside of their school, the work-life balance. If you carry that outside, you bring it inside. It's more connected today because our kids, they are authentic. They don't come to, I'm going to be this way in school, and then I go home and then, hey, I'm going to,
Right.
no, it's like
Right.
they're real. It's like they are who they are. So hopefully the adults will do so as well. Again, I always, put the disclaimer, somebody, oh, you're doing it perfectly at your school. No, we're still growing and learning to get to that place where we build out so our kids feel value and they are demonstrating that, and then and the adults as well, and they feel connected. You might have somebody today, well, Mr. Humphrey, I just didn't like how he did that, and it's like, did we have a conversation about it and kind of understand where you're coming from and where I'm coming from, so that we get to a place where everybody feels good about it? Because ultimately, it's about when you have kids in your care, you want them to be successful, you want them to do well, and we want to put back our own baggage, our own issues, so that we can help these future leaders, these future teachers, these future doctors, these future lawyers, give them the platform so they can be successful. And if they're going to be a major athlete, give them the values so that they use them on the field. People see them out there, and that when they see kids who look up to them, they'll demonstrate and emanate values that I think that make us all better.
When you said that kids are like really authentic, I one of the most terrifying things I ever had as a teacher is if I went to school and had a zit because I knew I'd hear about it. Like, right?
Right?
These kids
They
are
are.
like, oh
They
God,
tell
this
you.
is what I'm gonna hear. What's that on your head? I'm like,
You're like, oh,
ah,
you're looking so hard. I'm going to tell you, one time I was in a classroom teaching earlier on, and I was like, okay, I have the kids, I'm going to teach. They noticed everything. And
everything.
that day, I had antiperspirant I had my underarms, you might see the look under the stain. And then the kids didn't look at anything else but what I was saying and teaching. They looked at my arms. And one kid said, you have a stain under your arms. Like, wow, that's amazing. You didn't hear anything else? No, no, but you do have a stain. Well, thank you for doing it. Let
Yeah.
me know. I'd like to be informed.
Yeah, I kind of appreciate that. Kind of
You're
like
right. Just let me know. Just let me know. It looks
like
odd. I need
it's
to
like
know that.
horrible and awesome at the same time. So,
Right. You're like, oh my God. Oh, wait
uh,
a minute. Oh,
uh,
give me a moment. Wait a minute. But
of
they're
all
like,
days,
I
like
just need to.
I just need these zits on the weekends. I don't need
You're
them.
right. I just want to know you had one or two. Do you know? Did you see them before? I noticed them. Did you know them? Sure. Mr. C, yeah, we noticed them there. Sure. We
I
noticed.
love it. I really one of the things that really kind of stuck out to me that you said, and it's something I'm really I don't know, like I'm trying to get better at. I try to get better at everything I do. Like that is something that really matters to me.
Yeah.
And my focus on innovation for years is, something I'm really known for. But I'm very old school too. And I think that matters to me. Like I have a certain expectation on how we connect with each other, how we have conversations
Mhm.
with each other. And I think some of the like, hey, we can always have this vision, but there's things that throughout all of human history have really mattered. And, as you're talking, one of the things that I really kind of thought of that you emulate in your school, in your vision, in what you're doing is that the kids, well, of course, we want them to learn, but we want them to become better because of our presence. Like, because we're in their
Yeah.
lives, yes, they might have had some really crappy things that happen in their lives, but when they come here, no matter where they are in their life, when they leave because of our impact, they should walk out better. And I don't think that's just about content. I don't think that's just about doing cool stuff. I think that is that human connection. Is that something like, is that like really? Because when I'm listening to you, I'm like, oh yeah, that, and I love that because it really is something I'm really trying. And it's not that I don't believe it. I'm trying to get better at communicating that. So like, I
Right.
think a lot of
Exactly.
people think, oh, this guy's all about the new stuff. I'm like, yeah, but there's like really stuff that I'm really rooted in that, my parents taught me when I was a kid that matters today.
Right. I think no, I agree with you. I mean, the innovator's toolbox. I, I think the huge part about what you do, and the mindset is that all throughout the things you talk about, and some of the, of course, reading your book, and you have elements of people being innovative and process systems and ways that could connect and make a difference. But also, what I think weaved in with you, man, I see the traditional values that are in there because even though you create new, it's built upon a foundation of what was already set. And then I think the values that you got from your parents, how you carry yourself, I think that's also part of the way that we also connected because I see it. I see the future set, like this is
Yep.
where we're going, this is how things are already set up. But, my guided values allows me to be grounded as we look for these future innovations. And I think that's the important part. And I see that within you. And I see that, when you go about doing the work that you're doing.
I was years ago, I'll never forget this. They kind of hammered me and they're like, you were like, you're talking about innovation, but why are you so emphasizing like relationships? I'm like, because if people don't trust you, if they don't think
Exactly.
you have your back, they're not going to try new things. They're not going to be pushing. And
Exactly.
so like, I remember
Trust.
that. And I was like, really like a disconnect is like, yeah, like this is actually, it's not, you have to, as you said, that foundational element is really, really crucial. I do want to ask you this because I know you said you didn't like go in. It's kind of maybe this is also why we connected. Like I wasn't like ever going to be a teacher. That was never a goal for me. And it's kind of like, oh, this is like maybe I want to do this. What
Yeah.
did your prior career? What are some of the elements of what you learned through that process that you've kind of taken that have helped you, in your role as an educator, as an administrator? Because like even when you were telling me about the principal for a day thing, I've never heard that before. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was actually when I'm listening to you, I'm like, I don't know if that would make me want to do it more or less, right? Like,
No, I'd say the reality is like it depends on what's now. There's some people who like I think there are 1,000 people in New York City had that part of that program early on, and they would go to schools. It could be the Bronx or a high performing school. The school I went to. I think for the most part, the leadership probably said, we're going to take you around here and here and here. Versus sometimes in real life in schools, which could be really busy and seemed like a chaotic piece. But I think they took me to certain places. I mean, for me, I started out in school, I got originally my, a bachelor's in political science, and I had plans early on at that point of going into law, potentially on law school. But as I got, moved into New York, I got a job opportunities in my, and worked for, different organizations, nonprofits, and working in areas of fundraising. That's where it kind of really started out. I didn't have the intention of going into education. But after I had that experience, just looking, okay, what does the next thing look like? The next phase? Am I going this pathway of, if I'm going to grad school in law, am I going to this direction here with this fundraising in an organization, or are you looking to do something also different? And you go through those shifts and changes, especially if you're a career changer, where does it work? But I said, okay, well, let me try teaching. I know that I can make an impact. I think when I talk to a group of kids, that worked, connecting it worked talking to them and just giving them some insight and you feeling a connection working with kids. So, okay, let's see where that goes. I was very active in school and college early in my undergrad, with the student organizations and clubs, we're doing things, community service. I did a lot of that earlier on, but it was something that when you do the work like that and you make the connections, and I try to see people who they really are, whether for good or for bad, you learn through the experience, but just working with people, make connections, that people who are really interested and want to connect will help move things along. And I mean, moving along, meaning that you're moving something positive along that makes an impact that changes society somehow or changes some community or some, at least one individual
yep.
that is for the better. So, I mean, I think that shift in from, what I took from school, or what I took from the previous career was some of the organizational structures, some of the interpersonal connection of how you relate. I also worked within, Dale Carnegie program. And I did that through the former job. So I had opportunity to meet and connect with other people. And you take some of those skills that you take, how to, how Dale Carnegie, how to influence friends and influence people, some of the foundational stuff, but just taking some of those elements and then working to your next stage. So I take that when I'm working in the school. Okay. When I first started teaching, it was like, okay, I didn't go to school for education, so I didn't get the pedagogical foundation in terms of just initially outside of doing that when I had to go back to school and take classes and courses through that. But what I did find was that it really informed me because I always try to be a student and learn what I can learn to go to the next level. And then, you have those moments like, okay, this is a lot, taking all in. Where do I go with it? And and I think I kind of learned a lot from that and took that into the classroom. And when I first, I'll be honest, when I first went to class, my first experience ever in the classroom, outside of walking with presence, being a big guy walking in there, the kids were like,
That's a
look
good
at,
trick.
oh my gosh, who's this guy walking into class? You know, and the kids kind of read you out, figure out, what you are and what you can do, and then as I learned about my size and presence that, within a classroom, the impact that it can have, the kids kind of fell in line, allowed me the space to, okay, now I got to put in the teaching and learning. So let me input that because the kids are giving me time because they're like, this big guy is coming here. We're just going to follow what he needs to do because I don't know. I walk in and say, okay, let's take a seat. They're like, okay, let's let's go. So I mean, I use all of those things that I got to kind of feed the classroom. And some people go to school for it and they come out and I see them, they've gone to training and they've done clinical and they go in the classroom and they're having some challenges just managing it all. But I had to succeed. I try to learn. And I had failures in the beginning. To be honest, just coming in and coming to Florida and learning and trying to figure all that out in the classroom, But then from there, when I got it, I was able to kind of move forward. It's always like when you get it, people will see and notice, and it's with you. People see that you have something, they'll take that and say, okay, let's kind of grow with that. People will invest in you and pour into you, and then you continue to be uplifted by through the experience.
That when I'll never forget this. When I was doing student teaching, there was someone I was connecting with, and she was the top student in our class, like had the best marks, like in education, had a really hard time teaching. And she's a wonderful person, but it's like you can know all the stuff, but if you cannot connect, it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? So like grade wise, she's great. And it's actually something I always challenge with people because we're always like, oh, grades are so important. I'm like, I actually know some teachers who are really amazing who are terrible students.
Right. So do I, definitely.
But one of my belief systems on that is I think that actually a lot of teachers that were terrible students that are really good are because they actually understand kids who struggle because they were that kid. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh yeah. Like when I was a principal, kids would get sit in my office. I'm like, is that all you did? Because I did way worse stuff. Yeah. The one thing that you said, and it shocked me 0%, was that your Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I'm thinking about that you brought this up. I'm like, oh, this is why we get along so well. I remember reading that book. It was probably less than a decade ago. And people suggested me forever or whatever. And then I read it.
Yeah.
This is so good. Like, this is amazing. It's so relevant to like the work we do in school leadership, to what we do in teaching. When was this written? And I remember like looking at it. I'm like, oh, it's like 1930 something. How is this relevant now? And it is like, it kind of goes back to what what you were talking about. Like the stuff that really, really matters has always mattered. And that's why like it's so relevant, that book. But it's also like how you get people to move forward. So it's like when you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, this is why we get along. Because that is like that book, probably it's not only my influence on education, but also like because I own a publishing company, I write books. I'm like, how do you write a book that you could write today and is relevant 100 years from now? That like it's founded, like you're not really just caught up on new stuff. You're focused on like what will matter long term, because those books will last forever. Here's one last thing I got to ask you. Okay. So it's August 22nd, 2025. You're from Buffalo. You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming.
You're going to do it. I knew you were going to do it.
Buffalo Bills. That's your team. Is this the year? I'm like, I want to catch it. I want to get it right now. Is this the year? Do you believe? Buffalo Bills.
I will always believe.
You won't believe until it happens. But you won't really believe until it happens.
I will believe it. It will happen. There's a manifesting the time frame. I didn't get it, but I believe. I know Josh Allen will pull through with this team. I believe that they've been working. They've learned from other teams, And I think that, I think through, as always, they're going to learn they learn through the process. But I believe, man.
You don't know like the backgrounds of like athletes and stuff like that, and anyone that you see, he's like an incredible player. But like some of the stuff I've seen with him, like how he connects with the community, it's really powerful.
Yeah,
I like him.
it is.
I
It
like him.
is. He's on the billboard in Buffalo.
Hey,
He's the man. He's, as his kids say again, he's him. He's
he
the
is
guy.
him. I do love him. This is the last question. This is my very, very last question. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah, yeah.
see where you go with this. Would you rather Buffalo Bills get to the Super Bowl and lose, or not get to the Super Bowl? Because like if they got to the Super Bowl and lost, I would kill. That would be.
You're really good at the question. You came with the
I know, because it would really hurt. It would really hurt.
Because I've already we had the 4-run hurt in the '90s too.
I know.
That is it's a visceral reaction sometimes when you feel that loss. But oh geez, man,
That's a tough one. That's a tough
that is
one.
a tough one. There's a Gordian knot question. Gosh, man.
It's funny because like I remember watching them as a kid lose, and I wasn't like a fan of them, but you're just like, oh my God, like I just feel for not even the team, the city, like you're just pulling for them. I'm like they're not my team, but I'm pulling for them.
I think everybody pulls from when they're level. I think that just for the sake of getting to the Super Bowl after 30 years is just like, oh, we're back. But I mean, now we need to have it. That's it. So I mean, it's like we can deal with the fact, oh, they didn't make it this year. They're going to continue on. When you make it and you lose, it's like, oh gosh, I think the PTSD might fall in, but I think they got it. I think they have.
August 22nd, I'm calling it. Bills are winning the Super Bowl.
I'm sure.
Bills are winning the Super Bowl. I'm calling it. I'm not going to make you say it. I'm saying it.
Because people will hold me to it, especially in the community. But I believe they're going to go and do it. They're going to win the Super Bowl. This year is going to be amazing.
They're knocking. They're knocking. They're going to get it this year.
So thank you for speaking for me. I knew you can do it, George. Thank you for speaking.
I got you. And then you know what? I can't wait. I'm just going to cut everything else out before. And I'm like, see, I called it. And then it's like, nobody cares what I say, but I'm just saying. I'm be like, oh my God, that guy knew the future. So I was like, I've been on the road for the longest little while. I was exhausted. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. And I'm like, nah, I'll talk to Sheriff. It's like, he's going to energize me. Dude, I appreciate you, man, so much. So like you just have a way. So can't wait till we see each other again in person. But thanks for taking time out of your day and like give my best to your school and your community, because like, what a blessing you are to the world, man. So glad.
Thanks a lot to you and your family, and your amazing family. Thanks for all of that. I know you're great.
Talk to you, my bro. Everyone, have a wonderful day. Thanks for being here.